Welcome to the channel. Hit subscribe and dive into stories that'll stay with you long after the video ends. Let's begin. Rain hammered the glass roof of the administration building. Ethan Reyes clutched a damp envelope to his chest, heart thudding fast and uneven. His shoes left wet prints on the marble floor, the kind of floor that looked too expensive for someone like him to walk on. He was late. The scholarship ceremony was already over, but he'd come anyway. He had to know. He pushed through the heavy door to the dean's office, breathless, dripping, a stranger in a room full of pressed suits and polished shoes. Every head turned. The dean, tall, silver-haired, impossibly calm, paused mid-sentence. "You must be Mr. Reyes," he said. His tone was polite, but there was a flicker of surprise behind his eyes. Ethan nodded. "Yes, sir. My bus broke down. I came as fast as I could." A brief silence. Then the dean's assistant handed him an envelope. The same kind of envelope Ethan had been too afraid to open for 2 days. He tore it open right there. "Congratulations, Mr. Reyes. You have been awarded the Chancellor's full scholarship for academic excellence." The words didn't sink in at first. They floated heavy and unreal. Then his breath caught. He'd done it. After years of scraping by, after all the part-time jobs, the sleepless nights, he was finally free. The other students clapped politely. A few exchanged looks, whispers behind their hands. A kid from Eastside, winning that scholarship. Impossible. The dean extended his hand. "Welcome to St. Augustine University, Mr. Reyes. We expect great things." Ethan shook it, his calloused fingers rough against the dean's smooth grip. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." He turned to leave, and that's when he saw her. A flash of white umbrella, a hint of perfume. Eyes like polished amber, sharp, curious, alive. The dean's daughter. She stood by the door watching him, not with pity, not with condescension, but with something else entirely. "You're the one who won it," she said softly. "My dad's scholarship." Ethan blinked. "I guess I am." "You must be brilliant," she added, her voice smooth as rain on glass, "or very lucky." Her tone hovered between admiration and challenge. "Maybe a bit of both," he said. She laughed, quiet, unguarded, the sound catching him off balance. Before he could say more, the dean's voice cut the air. "Hazel," he said sharply, "we're leaving." Her smile vanished. She turned, following her father out the door. Ethan stood alone again, the echo of their footsteps fading into the hum of the rain. He didn't know why her voice stayed with him. Maybe because it was the first one on campus that didn't sound like disbelief. Or maybe because in her eyes he'd seen something that looked like recognition. Outside, thunder rolled over the city. Ethan stepped into the storm, the scholarship letter pressed to his chest, still warm from his hands. He didn't yet know that this day, the day he met the dean's daughter, would change everything. And before the semester was over, someone would lose everything. The first week of classes felt like stepping into another world. Ethan moved through the campus in a fog, past ivy-covered halls, stone arches, and students who spoke in soft, confident tones like they already belonged here. He didn't, not yet. Everywhere he went, people noticed him, the scholarship kid. The outsider with second-hand clothes and too much hunger in his eyes. Still, he pushed forward. He sat in the front row, took notes until his fingers cramped, answered questions no one else dared to. He wasn't going to waste this chance. He couldn't. But one afternoon, as he left the library, he heard a voice behind him, light, teasing. "Still studying after everyone else has gone home." He turned. Hazel stood at the bottom of the steps, a coffee in one hand, hair tucked behind her ear in that careless, perfect way. Ethan froze. "Hazel, you remember my name?" She smiled. "Impressive. Most people forget it after my father's introductions." He laughed softly. "Not exactly a name you forget." She tilted her head. "So, Mr. Scholarship, how's life in the ivory tower treating you?" He shrugged. "It's different. I'm trying not to trip over the marble floors." Her eyes lit up, amused, curious. "I like that answer," she said, honest. They walked together, her heels clicking against the path. The evening sun scattered gold across the lawns. "Why did you apply here?" she asked suddenly. "St. Augustine's isn't exactly the usual dream for kids from Eastside." He hesitated. "Because dreams are expensive, and this was the only one I could afford." She looked at him for a long moment, something soft flickering in her eyes. Then she said quietly, "You earned it. You know that, right?" He wanted to believe her. But the way some professors paused when calling his name, the way students whispered when he passed, it told another story. Still, Hazel's words lingered. Days turned into weeks. Their paths kept crossing at the cafe, in the student courtyard, once even in the rain under the same awning. She'd tease him about his worn backpack, he'd fire back about her designer notebooks. Somehow it felt effortless. But one evening everything changed. He was studying alone in the lab when the door opened. Hazel slipped inside, breathless, hair damp from the storm. "Ethan," she whispered, closing the door behind her. "I need your help." He stood, confused. "What's wrong?" She glanced toward the hallway, then back at him. "My father's hosting a donor event tonight. He found out I skipped it to come here. If anyone asks, you haven't seen me." He blinked. "You ditched the dean's gala to hide in a lab," she grinned. "Better company here." Laughed, then stopped when she stepped closer. Too close. The smell of rain on her skin filled the air. "Do you ever feel," she said softly, "like everyone already decided who you're supposed to be?" Her voice cracked a little on the last word. Ethan didn't answer right away. He knew exactly what she meant, more than she could imagine. And in that silent moment, with lightning flickering outside the window, something between them shifted. Neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. But both knew they'd just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The next morning, the world felt different. Ethan couldn't focus. Every page he read blurred into her face, the way Hazel had looked at him in that quiet, storm-lit room. He tried to shake it off. She was the dean's daughter. He was the scholarship kid. There was no version of that story that ended well. But destiny doesn't care about reason. By the end of the week, they were meeting again. First by accident, then by choice. Coffee breaks turned into late-night talks. Shared study sessions became excuses to see each other. They laughed easily, spoke in whispers when the world grew too loud. And every time she smiled, the walls Ethan had built around himself cracked a little more. Yet beneath the laughter, tension brewed. Rumors began to spread, whispers in hallways, glances that lasted too long. "Did you hear? She's been spending time with him. The scholarship boy." "Yeah, her father's not going to like that." Ethan tried to ignore it, but gossip travels faster than truth. One afternoon, Professor Landers called him aside after class, a man whose smile never reached his eyes. "Mr. Reyes," he said, "I've received comments. Some say your relationship with the dean's daughter is distracting you from your studies." Ethan stiffened. "We're just friends, sir." The professor's lips curved faintly. "I would be careful with that friendship. Perception matters here, especially for someone in your position." The words stung more than he wanted to admit. That night, Ethan found Hazel waiting outside the library steps, her expression guarded. "My father asked about you," she said quietly. "He's heard the rumors." Ethan swallowed, and "He's not happy." A pause. "He told me to stay away." The words hit him like a punch. He looked away. "Then maybe you should." Hazel frowned. "Is that what you want?" He hesitated. "I don't want to make things harder for you." Her eyes flashed. "You're not making anything harder, he is." She stepped closer. The night air smelled of jasmine and wet stone. "Ethan," she whispered, "I don't care what they say. You make me feel real, like I'm not just someone's daughter." He wanted to believe her. He wanted to hold onto that truth. But behind her words, he could feel the weight of everything standing between them: status, reputation, expectation. He brushed a raindrop from her cheek, his thumb trembling. "Hazel," he murmured, "if we keep this up, it's going to cost us both." "Then let it," she said. The air between them tightened, a spark drawn too close to kindling. Their hands found each other, not out of impulse but inevitability. And for a heartbeat, the world outside the university disappeared. But the next morning, the whispers exploded. Someone had seen them. Someone had told. By midday, Ethan was summoned to the dean's office. As he walked down the hallway, his pulse thundered in his ears. He already knew what this was. And for the first time since winning that scholarship, he was afraid not of losing money, but of losing her. The dean's office was silent when Ethan stepped inside. Heavy curtains filtered the morning light into cold strips across the floor. The smell of polished wood and rain-soaked air filled the room. Dean Whitmore sat behind his desk, still, composed, a statue in a tailored suit. Hazel stood by the window, her back turned. Ethan's throat tightened. "Sit," the dean said. His tone left no room for hesitation. Ethan sat. His hands were damp. The dean folded his fingers. "I'll be direct, Mr. Reyes," he said. "You've been given an opportunity very few ever receive, an opportunity funded by people who expect excellence, discipline, focus." Ethan nodded once. "Yes, sir." The dean's gaze sharpened. "And yet, instead of focusing on your studies, you've chosen to spend your time in social distractions." Hazel flinched. Ethan tried to steady his voice. With respect, Sir Hazel and I, Miss Whitmore, the dean interrupted coldly, is my daughter, and your superior in every conceivable way. You will not drag her into your ambitions. Ethan's chest burned. You think I don't see through this? The dean's tone cut like glass. Every year students like you arrive here hungry, desperate, pretending to be noble while scheming for a way up. Hazel turned sharply. Dad, stop it. Enough. His voice thundered. You will not speak to me that way. Her eyes flashed with fury. You don't know him. He's not like that. The dean rose from his chair, voice low and dangerous. You think you see the world clearly, Hazel, but you've never struggled for anything. That boy, he pointed at Ethan, comes from nothing, and that's exactly what he'll return to if he keeps testing me. Silence. Ethan stood slowly, his voice trembled, but not from fear. You're right, he said quietly. I come from nothing, but I didn't cheat to get here, I didn't beg, I worked. The dean's eyes hardened. Work doesn't make you worthy. Ethan's fists clenched. Then what does? Money, a last name. Enough. The word cracked through the air. Hazel stepped between them, tears streaking down her face. Dad, please. But the dean wasn't looking at her. Your scholarship, he said, his voice calm again, too calm. It's under review. There are questions about your conduct. Until we resolve them, your access to university housing and stipends will be suspended. Ethan froze. He felt the room tilt. What? The dean adjusted his cufflinks. Consider this a lesson in consequences. Hazel gasped. You can't. I can, he said, and I will. Ethan stared at him, numb. He wanted to shout, to fight, but the words wouldn't come. Finally, he turned to Hazel, eyes full of something between apology and defiance. I'm sorry, he whispered, for everything. Then he walked out. Each step echoed down the hall like the ticking of a clock counting down his future. Outside, the sky had turned gray again. The first drops of rain touched his face. He didn't have a dorm anymore, didn't have a plan. Only the letter that once promised freedom, now soaked and meaningless in his pocket. Behind him, Hazel stood in the doorway, her father calling after her, but she didn't listen. Because in that moment she knew whatever came next, she wasn't letting him face it alone. The rain didn't stop for 2 days. Ethan spent both of them walking, through back streets, under flickering streetlights, past cafes where laughter leaked out like warmth he no longer had. He couldn't go home, not yet. Eastside felt farther away than ever, and the campus that once felt like salvation now felt like a door slammed shut. He ended up in the library basement, the one place no one ever checked. He sat between the shelves, reading nothing, listening to the rain drum against the windows. That's where Hazel found him. Her hair was soaked, her eyes red from crying. She looked nothing like the girl who used to glide through the halls of privilege. She dropped her umbrella beside him and sat down. You disappeared, she said softly. I didn't think I was allowed to be here, he replied. You're not, she said, then smiled faintly. Neither am I. For a moment they just listened to the storm. It filled the silence better than words could. Finally, Hazel spoke again. My father isn't just angry, he's scared. He thinks if I choose you, it'll ruin everything he's built. Ethan looked at her. And what do you think? She met his gaze without flinching. I think everything he's built isn't worth losing who I am. The words hit him hard, not for what they meant, but for how sure she sounded saying them. I don't want to be the reason you fight him, he said. You're not, she whispered. He's the reason I have to. Her hand found his, trembling but sure. I'm going to tell him I'm done pretending. Ethan's heart kicked against his ribs. Hazel, if you do that. I already did. He froze. She took a breath. I told him last night. I told him I loved you. The words hung there, fragile, terrifying, beautiful. He stared at her, speechless. Hazel's eyes glistened, but her smile didn't waver. He said I'd regret it, she went on. Maybe I will, but not today. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded letter, crisp, official. I took this from his desk before he could file it, the report about your scholarship. Ethan's eyes widened. Hazel. He was trying to have it revoked completely. But there's nothing in it, just noise. I'm giving it to the board myself. I'll tell them what really happened. He shook his head. You'll destroy your father's career. Maybe he needs to remember what it's like to lose something that matters. A long silence followed. The storm softened to a gentle whisper outside. Ethan reached for her hand again. This time he didn't let go. You shouldn't have to do this for me. I'm not doing it for you, she said. I'm doing it because it's right. He exhaled a breath that felt like the first one in weeks. When morning came, they walked together through the courtyard, mud on their shoes, no umbrella between them. Students stared, whispered, pointed, but Hazel didn't look away. Neither did he. That afternoon, the board reinstated Ethan's scholarship. The dean resigned quietly a week later. He left without a speech. Only a single note in Hazel's mailbox that read, "Be careful with your heart." Months passed. Final exams, graduation robes, 1,000 new beginnings. And on the steps of St. Augustine University, Ethan looked at Hazel's sunlight in her hair, the city alive around them, and realized something simple. He hadn't won the scholarship because of luck or pity or anyone's approval. He'd won it because he'd never stopped fighting for something real. And somehow, along the way, that fight had led him to her. The poor student, the dean's daughter. Two lives that were never supposed to cross, and yet somehow became each other's future. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.